Hello and welcome to the arcade. You know, most of us gamers love to get our money's worth out of any game that we play. And to a lot of people, that means a game needs to be at least a couple dozen hours, with multiple game modes or other incentives to keep playing. Multiplayer, challenges, collectibles, unlockables, achievements, those are all great things to have and most of the time worth it in my opinion. Even when the game itself can take more than 20 hours to beat. But there are some games, much shorter games, that can be just as impactful and enjoyable as any longer game can be. In fact, a lot of shorter games benefit from their shorter length because it means the game has time to focus on one specific area and flesh out its own identity. So shorter games can feel complete on their own, even without all the extra hours of other things to do. So today I'd like to tell you about a few of my favorite shorter games that you can beat all in a day or an afternoon if you're really determined. So here we go. Here are my favorite shorter games. Number 1. Limbo. Limbo was developed by PlayDead and released for the Xbox 360 in 2010. It's a puzzle platform game with a dark atmosphere and a minimalistic style. The whole game is in black and white and has a great use of lighting, film grain, and ambient sounds that really boost the atmosphere and immersion. The story of the game is that you're playing as a boy looking for his lost sister through the mysterious realm of Limbo, while solving increasingly complex puzzles, avoiding deadly hazards, and defeating enemies both human and non-human. The world starts out simple enough, with a dark forest and just a few simple platforming challenges. But as you move further through the game, the forest gives way to some really interesting technological constructs, with electricity and water being some of the main puzzle elements that you'll find throughout the game. I'll admit that on my first playthrough of Limbo, it took me more than a few hours to solve all the puzzles, especially some of the later ones. But once you learn them and learn the way the game wants you to play, it won't take you too much time at all to fully complete the game. And not only are the puzzles and platforming all really fun and challenging, but the minimal story that there is really emotional, and the atmosphere of this game is eerie, with some moments of serenity and really just unlike anything else I've ever played. It has a pretty well-defined difficulty curve, with the game showing you the ropes at first and then just throwing you to the sharks by the end. There's no on-screen prompts other than what the characters or environments are doing. There's no instructions directly from the developers, no control or button prompts or hints or anything like that. It's just total immersion. And that's actually something I really appreciate about this one and PlayDead's other similar game, Inside. I first played Limbo after gifting it to my best friend for his birthday one year. Me and my brother stayed the night at his house after the birthday party, and we played a little bit of Limbo and some Pokemon Rumble as well. The next day was foggy and rainy and gloomy, and we just felt like that was the perfect atmosphere to play some more Limbo. So after we took a walk through the neighborhood, that's exactly what we did. And that's one of my most treasured gaming memories. Just me, my brother, and my best friend enjoying a new game that creeped us out, immersed us, and opened up our imaginations a little bit. Limbo is currently available on pretty much all platforms, including Game Pass, and only costs about $10 or less. Please check it out if anything I said interests you. Number 2. A Short Hike. A Short Hike is an open-world adventure game developed by Adam Robinson Yu and released in 2019. In the game, you explore an island that you're visiting for the summer. The goal is to make a short hike up to Hawk Peak, the main attraction and allure of this island. It's something that some of the other people in Claire's family have all done, despite the immense challenge of making it all the way up there. But throughout the game, Claire is encouraged by family and friends to make this hike for herself, resulting in her attempt, her journey, and the making of friends along the way. The game has a very charming and relaxed atmosphere, with no objectives that you must complete, other than making it to Hawk Peak to finish the game. You can play beach stickball, you can run a race, you can explore the woods, or you can just fly around. You can collect shells, you can fish, you can do all kinds of stuff. It actually sounds like quite the ideal little vacation. And all of it is super fun to do. The game controls so nicely, especially in the flying. You can collect golden feathers to give yourself an extra flap to help you either climb higher or fly farther as well, and it's really satisfying to complete all the different challenges and see that number of feathers go up. By the time you reach the peak at the end, you'll be really glad for all the time you spent collecting more and more feathers. The characters that you interact with in all the different activities are all pretty funny and unique. There's a lot of dialogue that feels really natural. Most of it is pretty funny, although there is a little bombshell exposition at the end that I won't spoil in this video. As you get more and more feathers, you'll be able to scale higher and higher on the mountain until you finally reach the peak. I'd say you probably need about 10 golden feathers to comfortably and easily reach the peak, but there's so much more than that to collect if you want to. And you can even keep collecting feathers and exploring the island after you've made it to Hawk Peak as well. I talked about a short hike in a previous video, and it's a game that means a lot to me. It helped me get back into gaming when I was struggling to find the fun in this hobby. It's such a short game that I was able to complete it in just a couple of sittings, and I felt so great about actually completing a game for the first time in months that it gave me a ton of motivation to get back into my backlog and start beating more games that I had listed for myself. Without a short hike, I may not have gotten back into gaming, at least not for a long time, so this game definitely means a lot to me. It's only about $8 on Steam and other platforms, and I highly recommend it. Number 3. Super Mario Land. We all know and love the Super Mario series, but Mario's first jump onto the handheld gaming scene isn't quite as revered as some of the later entries. And that's not without its good reasons. For starters, this game is kinda missing a lot of the main Mario staples, and the physics just don't really match any of the console experience that we'd had with Mario up to this point. But all that being said, there's still a charm to this game that is hard to deny. While it may not share a ton of identity with something like Super Mario Bros. 1 and 3, it actually has more of its own unique identity. And as weird as this game can look and feel sometimes, at least at first, it's still undeniably fun, even if it doesn't quite feel like Mario all the time. This was actually the first handheld video game that I ever played. I was over at my best friend's house, and we were just chatting and killing time while waiting for my mom to pick me up. He asked if I wanted to see his Game Boy that he had just got from his brother, and I said yeah, and he showed me it and let me try a bit of Super Mario Land on this hand-me-down DMG. It was a beautiful thing. The concept of holding and playing a video game console in my hands was completely new to me, and I was so blown away. And I never forgot that music either, and I still put on that theme to listen to now and then. I definitely played stuff like Tamagotchi and some Tiger Electronic games before this, but the Game Boy was on a whole other level to that, and I wanted one so badly. Eventually, I did get a Game Boy Advance with my brother and sister a couple years later, and it was mostly because of my experience with my friend showing me his original Game Boy, Super Mario Land, and a little bit of Pokemon at that time as well. As different as Super Mario Land can feel from other Mario games, it pretty much fits the same description. Super Mario Land is a 2D side-scrolling platform game where you run and jump through the levels to get to the end. If you've played any other platformer before, you'll be fine with this one, although the physics can be a little tricky at times. I do think the formula of this handheld style of Mario was perfected in the next entry, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, but this one is still my go-to for a short game to play when I don't have as much time to sink my teeth into something. In terms of the gameplay, it sticks to the tried and true formula. You play as Mario and you set off to rescue Princess Daisy from Tatanga, who's quite the intergalactic troublemaker. The goal in each level is simple: move right, jump across platforms, and make sure you don't end up squished by enemies or falling down pitfalls. You know, this is all classic Mario stuff. But here's where it gets a little interesting. Super Mario Land throws in a couple of unexpected twists. For starters, 2 out of the game's 12 levels switch things up with a forced scrolling, Gradius-style shooter segment. You'll find yourself piloting a submarine or an airplane, taking down bad guys and bosses with your trusty projectiles. And levels don't end with a regular flagpole either. Here you'll face a platforming challenge to reach an alternative exit above the regular one. And trust me, it's worth it because nailing these challenges unlocks bonus minigames that can net you extra lives or that awesome Super Ball power-up. And what sets Super Mario Land apart from other Mario games is its setting. It's not set in the Mushroom Kingdom this time. Instead, it's set in the strange world of Sarasa Land, and it's beautifully drawn in line art. And plus, like I said before, you're not rescuing Princess Peach like in other games. No, this time it's Princess Daisy who needs your help, making her debut appearance in the series. There's not that much to talk about in terms of power-ups. There's really just the regular mushroom and then the fire flower, which isn't really a fire flower, it's a super ball flower, I guess. When you get it, Mario can toss bouncing balls. Those balls can knock down enemies or pick up coins for you, and otherwise pretty much similar to like the fire flower power-up. When you stomp on Koopa shells in this game, they explode instead of sliding around. And there's no more 1-up mushroom power-ups. Instead, in this game, 1-ups are represented as hearts. In terms of the size of the game, it's definitely smaller than most other Mario titles. There's only 12 levels divided into 4 worlds, each with 3 levels. And in each of those worlds, the third level has an interesting and new boss to encounter. And if you're feeling up for a challenge, after you've completed the game, you can take on a harder mode where enemies are everywhere. And if you beat that, you can unlock the ability to start another playthrough from any level you want. Overall, it's a fun and short game that, while it doesn't feel exactly like Super Mario Bros. 1 or 3, it's still fun enough to be one of my go-to shorter games when I need to kill some time for about 30 minutes, or sometimes just play something to help calm me down or fall asleep. I actually played and beat it during a recent camping trip, not for the first time actually, and I might make it a tradition at this point. Beat Super Mario Land every time I go camping. It's the little things, you know? When I look at these 3 of my favorite short games, I can definitely see some of the things they have in common. Their shorter length is obvious, but also their strong sense of identity. Not only in gameplay, but in music and presentation. All of these games are standouts in those departments to me. They're a great palate cleanser if you aren't sure what to play or if you've been playing something lately that you're just not having any fun with. I feel like they're also great games to introduce new gamers to, as they aren't really all that challenging and can be enjoyed by veterans or newbies. They definitely have their differences though. Limbo is a puzzle platformer with an eerie atmosphere. A Short Hike is a relaxing exploration-based open-world adventure. And Super Mario Land is just a condensed version of the tried and true Mario formula. They all have their strengths, and within these 3 games there's a lot of variety and replayability as well. In Limbo there's collectibles and achievements. In A Short Hike there's a bunch of different golden feathers, meaning a bunch of different paths to progress to Hawk Peak. And in Super Mario Land there's the incentive to beat the game a couple of times to unlock a level selector, which is a really nice touch. In today's gaming landscape, it can be too easy to get bogged down in an endlessly long RPG or MMO or something like that. A lot of people get to a point where they feel like they're stuck in a rut, playing the same game over and over without end. And that isn't really that fun, in my opinion. I love experiencing as many new games as I can, and short games are a huge benefit to my love of the sheer variety of video games as an entertainment medium. Shorter games can typically take bigger risks than longer ones too. They can focus really hard on one thing and not have to worry about including additional content, multiplayer, battle passes, constant updates, or anything like that. They can just be what they are, a short video game with a story to tell and fun to be had by the player. I really hope you like what you've seen in these 3 games. They are some of my favorites, especially when I get really busy with other life stuff and bigger priorities than games. It's nice to have short games not to just hop in and out of, but also to complete, because we all still love that feeling of beating a game and checking something off the list. And shorter games can definitely help in that area. And you can almost always find something fun, unique, and exciting with shorter games. Even though they don't last as long as other games, they leave a lasting impression. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. What do you think about my picks, and what are your favorite shorter video games? Let me know about it in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.